Plants are kind of stuck, right? They can't just get up and find a mate. So how do they solve one of life's biggest challenges? Well, today, we're diving into the absolutely fascinating world of how flowering plants get it done.
Okay, so let's just kick things off with a question. Have you ever really thought about why plants have flowers? I mean, are they just there to look pretty for us? Or is there something way more incredible going on?
Well, the truth is, flowers are definitely not just for our benefit. They are an absolutely brilliant solution to that big problem we just mentioned. How do you reproduce when you're literally rooted to the spot? You can think of them as these super sophisticated reproductive machines. All right, so to really get how this whole ingenious system works, we first need to meet the key players inside a typical flower.
A typical flower is just a marvel of efficiency. It's got both the male parts, that's the stamen, and the female parts, called the pistil or carpel, all packed into the very same structure. Super convenient, right?
And these parts, they are perfectly designed for their jobs. The stamen's whole purpose is to make pollen, and the pistil, it's holding the ovules, and inside each one is a precious egg cell, basically just waiting for that pollen to show up.
Okay, but here's the catch. The male reproductive cells, the gametes, they can't move at all. They can't swim, they can't fly, so they need a ride. And that's where pollen comes in. You can think of it as this tough little armored vehicle built for a long and pretty risky journey.
Meanwhile, tucked away at the base of that pistil, you've got the ovules. Each one is like a little safe room, protecting a female egg cell. This is where the magic is going to happen, and this whole structure, it's destined to become the seed.
So okay, we've got our players, the pollen is ready to roll, and the egg cell is waiting. But how does the pollen actually get from the stamen of one flower to the pistil of another? This is where we get to the incredible challenge of pollination.
Right. Since plants can't exactly book a flight, they've basically hired a bunch of couriers. They use everything: the wind, water, and an amazing lineup of animals. We're talking bees, birds, even bats, to do the hard work of carrying their pollen over distances they could never dream of covering themselves.
Now, this whole delivery process can happen in two main ways. You've got self-pollination, which is kind of the safe, reliable option. But the real game changer for evolution, that's cross-pollination. Yeah, it's riskier, but by mixing genes between different plants, you get all this amazing genetic diversity. And that is absolutely vital for adapting to a changing world.
But get this, the journey isn't over just because the pollen lands. Oh no, the pistil is super picky. A whole chemical conversation starts up between the pollen and the stigma. And only if it recognizes the pollen as a match, the right species, not too closely related, only then does it give the green light. And that allows the pollen to start growing a tube down towards the ovule.
Okay, everything we've talked about so far has been leading up to this, the climax of the whole process. It's a phenomenon that is totally unique to flowering plants, and it's called double fertilization.
All right, you have to hear this because it's wild. That pollen tube doesn't just deliver one male gamete, it delivers two. The first one does exactly what you'd expect. It fertilizes the egg, creating the zygote, which is going to become the baby plant. But the second one, it does something completely different. It fuses with some other cells in there to create this super nutrient-rich tissue called the endosperm. It is literally a 2-for-1 deal.
And this is just a brilliant example of how efficient nature is. The plant doesn't waste a single drop of energy making a food supply unless fertilization is a sure thing. That endosperm, the food source, is only created after the egg is fertilized. It's like guaranteeing the embryo has a packed lunch ready for its first day of life. So after all that incredible, complex choreography at the cellular level, what's the big payoff for the plant? Well, this is how we get the seeds and fruits that are, pretty fundamental to our own lives too.
It really is a beautiful transformation. That fertilized ovule, with its tiny embryo and its personal food supply, matures into a seed. And at the exact same time, the ovary wall around it starts to swell up and becomes the fruit. And the fruit's main job? Well, it's to protect the seed and usually to bribe an animal into eating it and, dispersing the seeds somewhere far away.
And here's a little fun fact for you. What we call a fruit isn't always just the ovary. In what we call true fruits, it is. But in false fruits, think of an apple or a strawberry, other parts of the flower actually get in on the action and swell up to become part of that juicy thing we love to eat.
And this really just drives home the sheer power of this whole process. Think about it.
This entire intricate system allows one single tiny seed from, say, a fig tree to grow into a massive organism that's capable of making billions more seeds in its lifetime. That's the power of the flower.
So in the end, the flower is so much more than just something nice to look at. It's this elegant, powerful engine that solved the plant's biggest dilemma. Its evolution is what allowed flowering plants to just take over the globe, creating the incredible diversity of life that we depend on every single day. So it really makes you wonder, right? What other silent, brilliant solutions are out there in the world around us, just waiting to be discovered?